140 years of peace and it all crumbled under Bernard's reign. What an ending to Season 2 of Silo that was. The season finale of Silo has just been released, and whilst it answered a lot of questions that we had throughout the entirety of the show, those final few minutes really gave us the biggest question of them all, whilst also providing an insight into what the world was like before the Silo. With Silo 18 almost mirroring the fate of Silo 17 in the premiere of Season 2, but it concluding in a way which brought hope into the picture. Season 3 of Silo is going to be one that will have a lot to answer. So with that, let's dive into the season finale and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Silo Season 2 Episode 10, Ending Explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. That ending scene. When the season came to an end and we saw Jules and Bernard being met with flames, it cut to black and we heard rain pattering in the darkness. Honestly, when I heard the rain, I was excited because it felt like we were going to be getting an insight into the outside world. What I didn't expect to see though was what I'm imagining is a flashback to times that are not too distant from what we're in the present day. We know this based on the language that was used by Helen and Daniel, a reporter and a congressman. We know this because they were meeting up and it seemed like it was arranged digitally and they had the ability to Google the history of each other, things that we do in today's world. Even though there were newspaper articles on the wall of Nixon and illustrations of other presidents of the past, I think they're just there because of the theme of the bar and because they were in Washington, D.C., the political hub. There were talks of a dirty bomb that was dropped on the states by Iran, and Helen was wondering if there was going to be any kind of escalation. At first, I was wondering if this was running alongside the Silo, but then when we saw the infamous Pez relic that George Wilkins had in Silo 18 being given to Helen, it showed that she most likely ended up inside one of these silos. Or it was found and ended up in there. What we were watching was the before time that often gets spoken about, and the relic could have just been symbolic of that time period that we were in. And it might not have necessarily been the exact same one. Daniel was holding a magazine which had people in suits walking around in the park, and it was being positioned as being the new normal. Plus, when he went into the bar, there were checks being done by security for what I imagine was levels of radiation due to the dirty bomb that was dropped. I'm imagining that the United States retaliated to the dirty bomb, and then there was a further retaliation from Iran, which meant that nuclear warfare got to the point where the country was thrown into turmoil. Hence the creation of these silos. Maybe a select number of people were put inside of them in order to preserve the human race in the United States. There were only 10,000 people in each of them, and it's been several hundred years since the people first went in there. So I'm predicting that it's only a special few from each state that got to go in a silo. This also makes sense as to why there are 51 silos. There are 50 states in the United States of America, so that would make 50 silos. And then Washington, D.C., which is a district in the United States, essentially acts as the 51st silo, which is the one which holds all of the power and makes the decisions. Just like how it's the political center in the United States at the moment and where all of the decisions get made. This is why Bernard didn't know about why there was 51. What this flashback showed us was that we're most likely going to be seeing the before time firsthand in the next season of the show. Silo has been commissioned for Season 3 and Season 4, so there's so much more of the story to explore. I think it's definitely looking like a nuke was dropped in the United States and precautionary measures were made following the original dirty bomb, which were the creation of these silos which the founders made in order to preserve the people from each state. I imagine we'll see the selection process, the fight that people would have had to have gone through in order to ensure their own survival, and the panic that the citizens would have been going through. This scene alluded to an answer of why it was that people ended up in the silo and the state of the world outside of it, and what a time for the showrunners to give it to us. Jules. Within this episode, it was all about Juliet looking to get out of Silo 17 and her finally making it back to Silo 18. Her time in Silo 17 was a little stretched out considering all she had to do was put on a suit and leave, but the importance came with the fact that she found out about the safeguard procedure. This information was shared through Solo because of what he was told when he was younger. We found out about the safeguard in the previous episode when Lukas Kyle went to the tunnel, and in this episode specifically, we heard that there was a pipe in every silo, which the main silo can pump gas into and kill all of the residents if it chooses to at any time. This is what Solo believed happened to the people of his silo when they stepped outside. He mentioned that the people that were outside actually lived for a brief while, but it was the central controlled silo which pumped it full of gas which caused everybody outside to die because they ended up breathing it in, showing that there was a deeper sense of control that was taking place and they almost want people to now stay inside of the silo. This was information which essentially gave her leverage with Bernard when she made it back into the silo because she knew the exact same amount of information as what he did. When Jules was looking to leave the silo, we saw that the suit that was left for the head of IT, the one which she wanted to use, was filled with holes, which obviously meant that she couldn't use it. So she had to use the fire suit as a makeshift one, something which had a significant amount of importance during the closing moments. When Jules finally made it back to Silo 18 and restored hope to the people inside of the silo because she was alive, she wanted to get back inside and be reunited with them all. However, Bernard was in the way and prevented her from getting inside. It was once the door started to close that she stepped inside, but what she didn't realize was that there would be fire that would be emitted in the holding room. With her being in the fire suit, it's something that won't necessarily protect her completely, but it should be able to provide some kind of protection against the flames that were in there. Meaning that she was always supposed to wear that suit because she was going to be hit by the flames. We don't know what level of protection the traditional suit has, but I think she might well come off unscathed when compared to Bernard. Jules knowing that there's a pipe on level 14 of every silo is something that could be beneficial for her when she's inside of there because she may look for a way to block that pipe and prevent the gas from being able to fill the silo. Something which will allow the silo to operate outside of the control of the main silo. With Lukas Kyle revealing to Bernard about what he saw and what he was told, it makes me think that the algorithm could have heard and they might initiate the safeguard, so she might have to act quickly. There were some great moments from Jules in this episode. The way she looked out for hope was inspiring to see, and I'm glad she put Audrey in her place. Honestly, Audrey can go out to clean in my eyes, and Rick is just as bad for just sitting back and allowing her to talk to Hope the way that she did. I also thought Solo and Jules' relationship reached an incredible ending as well. Him testing the suit in the water for her to make sure that she was safe, and also the hug that he gave her showed just how far they'd come together. Solo wouldn't even open the door to the vault for her in the early parts of the season, and the final thing that he did was give her that show of affection. They both helped each other in ways that they never vocalized to one another, but there's definitely a level of importance that they'll always hold. It wouldn't surprise me if Solo wasn't in Season 3 of the show, but I could definitely see him coming back in Season 4 as the world gets even bigger. I'd like that, as he was a standout character for sure. Bernard. Bernard was definitely a broken man at the end of the episode. He thought that his plan with watching Walker was exactly what he needed, but in actual fact, he was being played. The plot to destroy the generator was a ploy, and the actual plan was to blow up the stairs between level 90 and 92, which meant that there was no way for the raiders to get back up. With him not being in control and Lukas Kyle telling him about the safeguard procedure and the fact that there was one silo that pretty much controlled everything and made all of the decisions, he felt like his entire life and purpose was a lie, hence why he entered this zombified reflective state. Bernard had sacrificed a lot throughout his life and even killed who he would describe as the love of his life in order to serve the Order, the Pact, and the Silo, but it was all for nothing. That's why it looked like he was prepared to go outside. He wanted to step outside and experience what it would be like to be free for the first time in his entire life, and if he died, then so what? At least he was in control of it, especially now with him questioning if it was even safe to go outside. He pretty much had the same mindset as everybody else. The rebellion was going to him in order to look for the truth, but after Lukas Kyle told him the truth, he himself no longer knew what to believe and was looking for the truth himself. I also feel like with him wanting to step outside, it was exactly what Judge Meadows wanted to do, and he took inspiration from that. She was begging him for a suit in the build-up to her death so she could step outside and experience what the truth was. Just like how she dreamed of being like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz, just flying away at the end, but he denied her that opportunity. So him doing that was something which felt like he had Meadows in mind. With him stepping back inside and being hit with the flames due to Jules dragging him in there, I'm questioning what state he'll be in and if he'll even return in Season 3 of the show. We don't know if those suits are flame-proof, and his arc did feel like it was drawing to a close, especially with the somber state. So he may not make a return when the show comes back. He definitely wouldn't go back to being mayor after knowing the truth, so I feel we've seen the last of Bernard. Or with Camille potentially taking over, could we see an envious life as a civilian for him? The Rebellion. Martha was actually on the side of good, and she stayed true to the core values of being in Mechanical, of always looking out for each other. Something that I'm really pleased with. With her utilizing the signs that were used near the generator because it was often so loud, she informed Knox that she was being used as a pawn and that every conversation was being recorded, hence why they had the decoy plan of blowing up the generator. This plan showed just how divided the upper and lower levels were. Time got a key focus in this episode, especially Dr. Nichols' watch. Rest in peace, Dr. Nichols, by the way. Him giving himself for the cause was a moment which showed true growth and transformation in the character. He was once a loyal servant to the silo and went along with all of their orders despite not truly believing in them, such as the population control element. But with him sacrificing himself in order to find out the truth, and him giving a speech about how Jules needs to know that she's perfect and has always been. Words that she longed to hear because she felt the sense of abandonment from him when her mother and brother died. It just rounded off his character arc perfectly. She was almost an inspiration to him at the end. The rebellion was successful, and with all of the raiders being sent to the generator, it meant that there were no raiders that were able to get back to the upper levels and prevent them from going to Bernard and looking to get the truth. The only issue that they faced was that Paddy Kennedy had led a different arm of the rebellion and went all Allison and believed that the outside was safe. So he wanted to storm outside with the hope of seeing what he saw on the video and in the picture that Billings showed him. I liked how again Silo 18 mirrored 17 in the sense that Paddy Kennedy was standing in the cafeteria and was screaming how it was all lies. And then when that's paired with Silo 17, lies was what was written on that wall too. Thankfully, that second rebellion was stopped when Jules ran over the hill from Silo 17 and told everybody to not go outside because it wasn't safe. With Jules being alive and seeing everybody's reaction to her essentially Kate Bushing it, it was actually quite an emotional moment. The music in the background, the smiles, tears and excitement that everybody had. It was the first time that there was true happiness in that silo since the early parts of season 1, so it was a mood that we hadn't truly experienced for a long time. Simms and Camille. Robert Simms finally got his dream job of being the shadow to the head of IT, and little did he know that it all meant nothing. He was even flexing it to Lukas Kyle after he gave it up. Simms saw Kyle talking with Bernard and the somber state that it turned him to, and it led him to approach him to find out what he said. With Simms ending up in the vault with Camille and his son, the algorithm spoke with Simms and told him that Camille could stay inside of the vault, but he had to take himself and his son outside whilst it spoke with her, showing that he was already being undermined in his new position. If the algorithm is all-knowing and all-seeing, I wonder if it's seen just how valuable Camille is when compared to Robert, and it has plans to make her the new head of IT or judge if Bernard is no longer going to be around. She's a woman of the people, and she's one of the most empathetic and human that there's been. So her involvement moving forward looks like it could be of great importance in unifying the silo again. My review of the finale. I thought this was the perfect finale to the season. I know there's been a lot of debate over whether or not this was too slow of a season, but you know what they say, the slower you cook the meat, the more tender it becomes and the juicier it gets, as long as it's not done on the grill. And that was the case with this season of Silo. Everything just added up right at the end, and we saw some of the best performances that the show has given us, whether that be Jules, Dr. Nichols, Bernard, or even Solo. Seeing Bernard smiling like this when he thought that he had everything under control, and it finishing with him looking like this was just poetic. The scene at around the 13-minute mark where we saw the rebellion about to embark into battle was just epic. If anything, I wish we could have seen more of the battle taking place because Knox looked like he was giving it his all. Solo definitely delivered most of the emotional moments in this episode of the show. He was reminiscing about being with his parents when he was younger. He looked in the mirror and said how he'd gotten old, something that many people feel when they catch themselves from time to time, wondering where the past few years have gone. Plus, he also gave Jules that hug, which was just everything. The pacing of this episode was just perfect too. The build-up to the rebellion taking place, Jules getting her suit sorted, and even the epilogue at the end where we saw the before times. I was just riding the wave of emotions and revelations and seeing where it would take me, and I'm happy with the destination I arrived at. When comparing it to season 1, I think the final couple of episodes did really save this season when it came to the story. We needed the revelations and developments that we got, otherwise it would have felt extremely underwhelming. Now that there's the very prospect of being able to see what caused the silos to be formed, it's so exciting. This has been one of the most interesting shows on TV the past 10 weeks, and it's a shame that it's come to an end. However, it seems like Severance is now going to be filling the void that Silo's going to be leaving us with, so may Apple's sci-fi reign continue. I just want to say thanks for tuning into the channel every week and watching my breakdowns on Silo. It's been a great show to cover and it's been fun diving into the comments and discussing theories with all of you. So, there you have it, Silo Season 2 Episode 10, Ending Explained. If you want to see episodes of Silo Season 2 being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, there's a playlist there. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. What did you think of the season finale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.